I am Doomsvis, and this is day 51 of Spawn Year.
Todd McFarlane's ongoing drama that finally sees Spawn coming after Jason Wynn, but just ignores Spawn's recent development and blood feud by Alan Moore, is abruptly interrupted this issue for a standalone story by Alan Moore, though this one has a plotting credit by Todd McFarlane. Could it be that he's finally learned his lesson? That perhaps instead of letting guest writers do anything they want and retconning it as soon as he gets back, now he's actually telling them what they can and can't do, so there's more consistency. Chances are the stories won't be as good, but if later issues are paving over the progress they made, what's the point? And so we have a very interesting collaboration here, with a plot that feels very McFarlane, but words that are unquestionably Alan Moore's. Spawn encounters the Freak in the alleys and helps the long, white-haired, shirtless lunatic fight off a gang that attacks him. One of them calls the Freak Alice Cooper. That's a nice touch. Spawn is somewhat uncharacteristically friendly and accommodating to the Freak, offering to help him get revenge on the man he claims destroyed his life and drove him insane. Both had their lives ripped away from them, transformed into outcasts with no home to go back to, and left physically grotesque and emotionally scarred or broken. It makes sense that Spawn would empathize with this man, but not that he would so quickly buy the Freak's story and then aid him in assault and murder. These parallels aren't that far away from the ones with Tremor, and he doesn't do anything like this for him. The Freak is obviously mentally unstable, and just because his story accounts for his insanity doesn't make Spawn less gullible for believing him without proof or verification. The Freak claims his family was murdered by a deranged scientist who calls himself Dr. Delirium. We're not told why he wanted Freak's family killed, and he says Dr. Delirium captured him when he came for revenge and tried to control his mind with drugs, which didn't turn him into a mindless drone, but turned him crazed and mad. So Spawn goes along with the Freak and doesn't do much besides roughing up some doctors, while the Freak finds the man he thinks is Dr. Delirium, and after a creepy speech, he drops him out a high window. In the end, Spawn seems surprised Freak killed the doctor. I'm not sure what he expected would happen, but he doesn't mind considering how badly he wants to kill the man responsible for destroying his life. He says, "You did what you had to. I'm fighting a few inner demons myself. You reminded me to stay focused." I can only assume he means that his visit to see Wanda is the thing that's made him lose his focus. I hope that despite this incident reinforcing his resolve for revenge, Spawn will have calmed down enough to be completely sure before he does Terry in along with Wynn. I suppose it would be even better if eventually, considering the problems he's made for himself and others when he's resorted to killing, he knocked that off altogether and looked for a better way to bring Wynn down. And when I complained that he didn't kill Wynn back in number 24, it wasn't because I think it's the right thing to do, but because Al is a killer and it was his lack of strategy rather than his conscience that prevented it. We learn, though Spawn doesn't yet, that none of what the Freak said is true. His wife left him because he had a psychotic break over her not wanting any children. So he was committed to an institution, escaped, and developed this warped fantasy where his problems are grander and more dramatically tragic than they really are, casting his doctor as the stereotypical mad scientist responsible for his delusional state, who he's able to murder because Spawn believes him. This might have been more effective if we were in a world where these stereotypes weren't so commonplace, with characters like the completely evil two-dimensional Wynn, Twist, overt kill, etc. I really didn't bat an eye at Dr. Delirium. I only think Spawn should have scrutinized what he was saying because the guy's nuts and he obviously wants to kill someone, not because Dr. Delirium sounds too far-fetched for this universe. There are real monsters in hell called Vaporizer and Vandalizer. Anything is possible here. This story is all about the notion of normality and society's perception of what that is supposed to be. Since Spawn returned from hell, the same world he used to be a part of, has transformed to him into a totally different, surreal place. There is no such thing as normal to him now. That's just a fabricated idea that makes it easier for people to sleep at night, and he's right about it. I like the idea of a guy who completely loses it over some aspect of his life not fitting into that perfect perception he has of normal. Having kids, and more juxtaposes his weird stream of consciousness nonsense with internal monologue of how he thinks his life should be and would be if it was normal, an excellent device that helps us understand his psychosis, and which we don't fully comprehend until all the pieces to the puzzle are revealed. He's incapable of pretending his life is normal anymore because it isn't what he wants it to be, so he fully embraces the bizarre and then blames the bizarre for how he got this way, when in fact he had a relatively stable and happy life before he got like this. I think the idea is that no matter what the world is or what we're told it's supposed to be, we have to make our world what we want for ourselves the best we can, and accept that we can't control the other people in our lives, and we make better decisions when we understand our limitations, but also when we understand our strengths. That's certainly something that hits close to home for me. I'm not thrilled about Spawn still being so slow on the uptake, but the psychology is interesting. Signed, Captain Logan.